So I think you should ask this question to the publisher rather than me. But if I need to to answer you, I would say that I have a suspect, and I think it's due to some lines, especially coming from the poem. There were times in which I wrote that there were times in which I asked wind to lick your nipples. My poetry is quite explicit, and it's concerning sex in plenty of occasions. I do a lot of sex. I think it's always been subject to an unreasonable taboo in this taboo-ridden society all over the world. Uh, in England as well. In Italy, it's been quite a forbidden topic for too long, especially gay sex. So I'm proud to be gay. I'm proud to be a very sexual person. I'm proud to be very passionate about what I do, including fucking. And I don't think it's a topic that we should uh, place under the label of being erotic. When you're a poet, you do write about what you go through, and I've been through plenty of sex, and as I like to think, most of people have. So why not to talk about it? What's wrong about sex? It's such joyful, mesmerizing activity. So why shall we put it under such specific and boxed in label? So I didn't agree. I didn't choose to label it as an adult poetry. It came as a surprise, and I was quite pissed off at the beginning. But then I thought, you know what? Uh, Adult poetry be it, so be it. I don't care. As long as as it reaches people and people can sort of find a mutual experience with it, that's absolutely fantastic. So I don't really care. I've never cared too much about labels. I've always been a psycho with a berry gay. I was the fat guy, the pleasantly looking, but I don't give a shit. Oh, I think that's such an interesting question. Um, and I will try my best to answer you. I might not be the most indicated person because I've only started quite recently. I mean, last year was my first time on a stage, rather than a few things on video. I had never been performing poetry, and there is quite a huge difference. My poetry isn't the best poetry to be performed. It doesn't rhyme that much. It's quite caustic. It's quite sharp. It's not very linear. It's not very melodical. Although I've been writing about spoken poetry as well a lot recently, because it was new. It was a new planet, and I would say that the main difference is that. Spoken word poetry is meant to be performed, so it has quite some characteristics that you need to focus on, such as rhymes, such as pun words, such as the rhythm. Really, when I write, I have a focus on the visions and the images that I want to convey and to deliver. Whereas when I want to do some spoken word poetry, I focus on sounds and how would people react to those sounds and to those metaphors. I'm very convoluted myself when I write. I love metaphors. I love mysteries. I love evoking rather than just tell you what it is. And it's quite interesting and fascinating for me. Just because as much as my poetry is really brutal, sometimes very explicit. It is explicit usually in a mysterious way. So you kind of have a taste of both worlds. So I do love being a spoken word artist, but I would never say that I'm a good one. There is plenty of fantastic spoken word artists out there, especially here in London. And I do believe I'm just a poet. I like to be a poet. I like to experiment a lot. I like to venture out and try new stuff. Yeah, that's always been a plus. Oh, yes, I am. I have currently two poetry collections ready. One is in Italian and one is in English. I'm really pushing them to meet some generous publishers who will be able to take them on board. Currently, I've received thousands of no's. Thank you, and so let's hope for the best. I'm also working on a podcast at the moment to share my knowledge and my passion for poetry. So if you want to be involved, please get in touch with myself. It can be on Instagram, it can be on Facebook, it can be on my personal email. I'll give it to you at the end of this video. Oh, well, there are quite a few to be honest. I don't like arrogance in general, so I don't like that kind of masturbatory approach to poetry. You know, you just want to show off how good you are, how refined and recherche you can be, but that tends to be so boring and it's not engaging in my opinion. So I can't relate to that poetry. It stays quite far. It's like when at school they try to make you love authors that are so away and far in time that you can't connect with them, and it's absolutely fine. I think that in order for people to start growing and nourishing a passion for poetry, they should be getting them involved in spoken words poetry, because that's so amazing. That's inspiring. That rings the bell to our soul, and that's something that we can relate to. Of course, if you want me to relate with Wordsworth, that's bloody boring. It's not something that I can connect when they used to write about love in a totally different way that we perceive it today. So it's really hard to build this bridge and to pass it through. So yeah, I think that that's what I like the least about poetry. That sometimes it's just the big I am. They just want to take the piss, and there's so much poetry out there that you can easily trash, and maybe you can, you're free to think that you can be in my poetry. I wouldn't take offense, but I know that my poetry is genuine. It was born out of a very specific and bloody urgence. So I'm sure about that. Oh well, I had to admit that poetry took me far in terms of joy. Maybe not that much in terms of achievements, but I don't know. I can't be that objective about my achievements. I would say that certainly this year I've been selected for works all over the world, for anthologies, collections, magazine, webzines in Canada, in USA, in UK, in Pakistan as well, and last year in Brazil, and this year so far I've been selected for 18 different magazines. So that's been absolutely mind blowing, and I'm really grateful that someone believed in me. I've been selected for the Kensington and Chelsea Art Week, and that was so life affirming. Thinking that I'm in one of the most most everything, like basically most famous, most talked about, most one of the most brilliant places of the world, which is London, and I've been chosen to represent poetry. That's really really important. And also I would say that like touring last year, that's been so much fun. At the beginning of the year in February, I was the main poet, the headliner at Poetical World, which is an amazing open mic night in Hounslow, Zone 5 in London. If you get the chance, go there. Do support them as soon as we can go back, and if this pandemic allows us to do so. But yeah, I would say that these ones were the most relevant achievements for myself. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice question. I would say that I have a diploma in music criticism that I studied here. I was one year course at the College of Media and Publishing. It was really tough for me because I've always been rebel and quite allergic to rules in general and guidelines. So it was challenging, was demanding, but I learned a lot. I treasure that experience and that really difficult assignment. So that I try to put it into writing about music, which is quite different. But what I try to do is to sort of combine my love for a poetical touch and my knowledge and passion for music. So when of course, there are requirements and guidelines. So I do bear them in mind when I write for Peekaboo, this Belgium magazine of music, and Geek Soup, this UK-based webzine. But for instance, I also created Quackoversal, which is my blog, in which I write poetical reviews in harsh times. So I sort of kept that freedom because I really needed it. It was like oxygen for me, and I couldn't let it go. So I sort of find the sort of compromise that I was looking for, and that's the main difference. I think when I write about music, I try to stay objective, but not too much when I write on my blog, because I love poetry and poetry is all involving, and it should be like always used, even in official documents. I think it really suits us. It really makes life easier to swallow. So 1 year later, I would say the Japanese Tosa is still really independent. It's really indie. It's very far from mainstream. I received very mixed reviews. I can't lie. For instance, there was London Group who really made it clear that they hadn't enjoyed it that much, especially because it would point out the fact that I'm not the English is not my first language, and I would argue that that's something positive for me, because it really forces me to think differently and really out of the box. When you're writing in a different language, you can be more creative, not less creative. So maybe you struggle and you fail at just at delivering what you initially was meant and was rooting to deliver. But something else, even more fascinating, even freer, would come out of your words. So I keep that in mind. I've written in French, Spanish, Portuguese, English, and Italian. So every time it's a roller coaster for me, and it's quite adventurous, and I like it. I never strive to be perfect. I could never be, even far from being perfect. But I enjoy what's honest. I enjoy what's artistic, because art for me is expression of what you got inside. Sometimes you can relate, sometimes it's nice for you, sometimes it's unpleasant, sometimes you can't relate to it, and it's fine. I think there's place for everyone and everything, as long as it's honest, which is really what this world lacks at the moment. Honest stuff, really, something that comes from your gut rather than from a contract with a label, rather than from something commissioned. Nobody commissioned me anything, and I've always been really happy to give my poetry to the world. Oh, there's so much going on out there, and I think it's going on all over the world. So keep an eye on poetry in general. If I have to go through some of my favorite ones, I can tell you that I'm currently reading Impression by Shani. I personally know this lovely girl. She's super talented, and she has this mystical way of describing feelings and circumstances, and I'm quite enjoying it. And I will write a review soon on my blog, Quackwaversal. But I can also recommend you Physical by Andrew Macmillan. There was really something sensual that embodied the poems, and it was born out of a genuine belonging to poetry, and a very felt heartfelt push to write about what was going on in his mind. There's my one of my all-time favorites, Patricia Cavalli. There's this very nice translation with modern classic, with Penguin classics. She's just amazing. Dina Mahoney as well, Tutti Frutti, is just one of a kind. Is just amazing. This collection is so funny and it's so well crafted. And then for Portuguese speakers, readers, or understanders, two collections that I absolutely adore, and I could give my heart to them. I mean, Ana Guadalupe, Relógio de Pulso. There's so much in here, and it's so brilliant, and it's so urgent, and it's just amazing. It's mind-boggling. And Alerta Selvagem, Suzy Freitas, that's just one of the best collection I've ever read. It's so touching, inspiring, and lyrical, and cruel and brutal. Just give it a go if you understand Portuguese. If you are learning it, give your mind a chance to be completely broken. And yeah, keep an eye on poetry in general, because there are so many people, and they do deserve your attention out there and your help. So you can buy my book Japanese Tosa directly from myself. Just send me a direct message on Facebook, Instagram, or my personal email address, which is my full name, aldoquayati number 7 at gmail.com, and we will sort out a few things together, and I will certainly sign it for you. But you can also buy it on Amazon. Also in South London Poetry Books, on London Poetry Books, which is the publishing house as well, on and plenty of places really, like Waterstones, Bookcopier, and yeah, you just need to, if you Google it, you'll find all the places where my book is sold. But please, I mean, do get in touch with myself if you want a copy. And just to give you also a good news, I worked on an audiobook as well. So soon, and I will give you a shout on ACX. There will be an audiobook as well, just in case you want to just take a bath, relax, and listen to my poems rather than reading them yourself. You will have the chance to do it. And so yeah, this was it's been a very hectic here, but yeah, my book Japanese Tosa is 1 year old. And thank you so much for all your questions, and I was really touched by the number of questions and by your attention. So plenty of kisses for you out there, and do support my book and keep on loving poetry, y'all.